Olivia Rodrigo's song Teenage Dream is one of those songs that hits you the second you hear it. I really like it because she's not just romanticising heartbreak and being young like she does in a lot of her other songs. Here she's telling the truth about growing up and not feeling enough and sort of talking about losing the version of yourself that you thought you'd be. And I think that this song captures this sort of fear that none of us say out loud. You know, the fear of like, what if I've already peaked? What if nothing does get better from here? And what if this is all there is for me? I think it's one of the most important songs on Guts, and definitely one of the most vulnerable songs that Olivia's ever written. So that being said, let's break the lyrics down line by line. When am I gonna stop being wise beyond my years and just start being wise? This first line in the song instantly sets the tone up straight away. The comment wise beyond your years sounds like a compliment, but it's actually really heavy with the added for your years on the end. It's sort of symbolising the fact that even though you're still learning and growing, people around you are expecting you to act mature and like you've got it all figured out. It's saying that she's fed up of being smart for her age, she just wants to be smart and not put on this sort of big performance of maturity for the people around her and obviously the world watching her. And like I said, the comment beyond your years, it can be really painful to hear. It's like saying to a girl, oh, you're really good at running for a girl. It's like, well, what do you mean for a girl? You can just say, I'm good at running. When am I gonna stop being a pretty young thing to guys? This line hits on how Olivia feels seen, and maybe only feels seen, by guys just for her youthfulness and her looks. The phrase pretty young thing seems almost like a label or a trophy, which is really uncomfortable because it's just reducing her to that. Sort of something to look at and admire just because she's young and attractive, not being looked at for the raw talent that she has. It's pretty much like she's saying, when will people start seeing me for me? And not just this sort of surface level that fades as you get older anyway. I really like this lyric because Olivia's perfectly captured this frustration that I know myself and a lot of other young women feel. Sort of being objectified or judged purely just because of your looks alone, and not having people take into account your personality, your talents. It can be really frustrating, and I think this line captures that perfectly. When am I gonna stop being great for my age and just start being good? Again, with this line in the song, we've got that sort of backhanded compliment again of for your age. It can feel really limiting, sort of like your achievements are just linked to your age and they only seem good because you're young. Which obviously I know a lot of media outlets pride on when Olivia released Sour because she was only 18 years old. And it sort of just reduces her talent to the fact that she was young when she did it, and that's what makes it amazing, when in actual fact it was amazing just because she has raw talent and she's a good singer. And a good writer, obviously. When will it stop being cool to be quietly misunderstood? This is honestly such a gut punch of a line. Obviously, we know that a lot of different aesthetics sort of wander around the world, and one that has become a trend that I've seen myself is the sort of sad girl aesthetic, where being sort of different or mysterious, misunderstood is seen as trendy, when in actual fact, being misunderstood is often really lonely. And if you sort of don't fit into that sort of trendiness of it, you get judged, you're an outcast. I know I can say from personal experiences this has happened to myself, and I think this line is really, really powerful because it's exposing how harmful it can be to turn this sort of emotional pain into an aesthetic, instead of something that obviously deserves support and caring and healing. And of course, we've got the absolutely iconic chorus. I know myself, when I was singing this at the Guts World Tour last year in London, I was crying my eyes out. I'll blow out the candles, happy birthday to me. Got your whole life ahead of you, you're only 19. I think this first part of the chorus is so vulnerable and so heartbreaking. So the first bit, I'll blow out the candles, happy birthday to me, got your whole life ahead of you, you're only 19. I think it's really capturing the sort of feeling being stuck between childhood and adulthood. I don't know, this is just my interpretation, but it sort of sounds sarcastic in a way. I mean, obviously we know blowing out your candles on your birthday is supposed to be a happy moment. But in the lyrics here, it kind of sounds empty. I know it's a really weird example to try and say, but it's like those scenes in the movies when everyone forgets the main character's birthday, so they just have a cupcake and a candle. And I just kind of picture her sat there like, well, happy birthday to me. It just seems really sarcastic and empty to me. Sort of sitting as a reminder of everything that she hasn't got figured out yet, which I'm sure a lot of us can relate to. And obviously you've got your whole life ahead of you. I know I say that to myself, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. To sort of kind of reassure ourselves, I guess. Like, okay, things aren't going great now, but I've got my whole life ahead of me. But honestly, if you're struggling to figure out what you're doing and which direction you're heading to, this can just feel like a lot of added pressure. And the last bit, you're only 19, again, just adds to this. It's sort of just like that reassurance. I've got my whole life ahead of me. I'm only 19. And I think this lyric can hit hard, especially for a lot of us who are sort of 19, 20, 21, my age. As a reminder that her and us, we're still young. We have still got our lives ahead of us, but there's always these external pressures, whether it's parents, colleagues at work, teachers in college, that we're already supposed to have it figured out. We're already supposed to be doing something big and amazing, which, like I said, is just a lot of pressure and it can get really overwhelming. But I fear that they already got all the best parts of me, and I'm sorry I couldn't always be your teenage dream. I fear that they already got the best parts of me. That line is so incredibly heavy. It's basically Olivia admitting that she's scared that this version of her that she's built, this version with all the light, the positivity, the possibility, is already gone. Which again, I know a lot of us can probably relate to, which is a common theme with a lot of her songs. Sort of worrying that the best version of you's come and gone, and that your potential that you had has already peaked before you even had a chance to figure yourself out or figure out what you want to do. Which can be so incredibly isolating, especially if you're growing up and still trying to figure things out. And then obviously she moves on to, I'm sorry I couldn't always be your teenage dream. And the fact that it's an apology is just crushing. It's not just about being this sort of ideal teenage dream where everything's perfect and pretty and rainbows and sparkles. It's about not being able to hold on to that perfect version of yourself. And obviously, when we grow up, that's when we make mistakes. We won't be emotionally put together because we're growing and going through things. And because you're still holding on to that sort of ideal version of yourself, you can just feel lost. When does wide-eyed affection and all good intentions start to not be enough? This line is so quiet and soft, but oh my god, does it ache. The phrase wide-eyed affection is such a perfect way to put it, I think. It's such a beautiful way to describe how we go into the world. When we're young, we're full of openness, optimisticness, hope, love. We haven't been hurt yet. And obviously the good intentions, those should count for something, right? It's like, well, I meant well, I had good intentions. And what Olivia's questioning with this is, when is that going to stop being enough? I don't know, for example, if you are working and you mess up, you say to your boss, well, I had good intentions. Your boss is probably going to say, well, that's not good enough. You messed up. You didn't do it right. Which again is all just going back to the sort of growing up and getting rid of this sort of ideal, perfect version. She's sort of saying, like, when does the world stop giving you grace just because you're young? When do people stop looking at you and seeing someone full of promise and potential, and instead start expecting results, perfection, resilience? I really like this because what Olivia's doing here is giving a voice to the feelings that so many of us feel, but we don't say out loud. And will everyone have every reason to call all my bluffs? This line feels like a moment of quiet dread. It's Olivia questioning how long she can keep people convinced. But not to do with deception, but to do with her own self-doubt. I wouldn't put it across as though she's bluffing in a manipulative way. More so that she's trying to sort of live up to these expectations. For example, saying, I'm fine when she's not. Or putting on this sort of act of acting more grown up than she is, more confident and more stable than she actually feels. I mean, we have to think she's been in the spotlight for a very long time. So it's almost like she's asking here, when will that stop working? And she's almost sort of afraid, maybe? Sort of worrying, like, when will people see through the cracks? When will us, the viewers, or the media, have enough evidence to question her strength, her maturity, or even her success? It's not about being caught out in a lie. It's about being afraid, fearing that she won't be able to keep up this version of herself that the world now expects. When are all of my excuses of learning my lessons gonna start to feel sad? This line perfectly captures the tension between growth and guilt. Olivia's reflecting on the repeated cycle of making mistakes and justifying those mistakes as learning lessons. This suggests that she recognises growth comes from mistakes, but she's starting to wonder that now, because she's getting older, are those mistakes justified? But now obviously she's getting older, she's starting to wonder, are these justifications losing their power? And that last bit, start to feel sad, again, I think links to growing up. Sort of looking at someone and going, oh, well, you're 22, you're not learning your lesson, that's just sad, you should have learnt that already, you're too old. You know, these sort of expectations that when you're older, you're supposed to know what you're doing, you're not supposed to be making mistakes, everything's supposed to be perfect, in order, blah, blah, blah. Will I spend all the rest of my years wishing I could go back? I think this line definitely refers to childhood and wanting to go back there. Back to a time before heavy expectations, before responsibilities or emotional struggles. Childhood represents a place of innocence and freedom. You know, freedom from the pressures that come with growing up. This lyric captures that instead of moving forward and finding peace, Olivia might remain stuck in this yearning, unable to fully embrace the present or the future. They all say that it gets better the more you grow. They all say that it gets better, but what if I don't? These lines express the tension between hope and doubt. It's again that sort of repeated reassurance that we've explored throughout the song. It gets better the more you grow. Sort of saying, time heals all wounds, you'll be okay, you've still got time ahead of you. But what I really like, because I've felt this myself, as I'm sure loads of you have, Olivia questions this sort of cliche with, but what if I don't? Because I know so many of us have probably felt that. I felt that. Again, at the Guts tour last year, crying my eyes out, but what if I don't? What if things don't work out for me? What if I don't figure out what I want to do? What if life just doesn't work out for me? What if I don't? What if I don't get better, you know? This question absolutely shatters the certainty behind that encouragement of it gets better. It voices this real deep fear, like I said, that a lot of us probably experience, that despite time and growth, things might not improve. These lines as a whole, I think, are some of the most important lines in the song, and dare I say, most important lines in the whole of Guts, the album. It's perfectly capturing this emotional complexity of growing up. Not just the expected triumphs, but the uncertainty and sometimes loneliness that comes with it. But yeah, as a whole, I myself really love Teenage Dream. It's such a powerful song and it perfectly captures this messiness and beautifulness of growing up and evolving. The highs, lows, doubts, and everything in between. If you did enjoy this deep dive and you want more lyric breakdowns, updates, news, all that jazz, please do give this video a thumbs up and comment down below what your favourite line from Teenage Dream is. And make sure you subscribe obviously so that you can stay up to date with all these different videos. And if you feel like it, hit the notification bell so you don't miss when I upload.